Welcome everybody to this second lecture on Hebrew 201. We're dealing with Genesis chapter 1 through 8, and I'll start off again tonight just reading it to you and then try to just take up in terms of walking through these 8 verses where we left off last time. Once again, what we're doing is as we read through the passage and we encounter the various different words and phrases and various different forms of the verbs, etc. And that's at that time, then we'll stop and we'll go back into Biblical Hebrew Step-by-Step Volume 1 and review so that everybody's keeping up with, how to get at these various different words. Like the first word, Bereshit, is made from a 3-letter root, which Rosh, which is head. So in the beginning, Bereshit, bara, Elohim, et hashamayim, ve'et haaretz, ve'haaretz hayeta tohu babahu, ve'choshek al pani, tehom, ve'ruach Elohim merchefet al pani hamayim. Vayomer Elohim, Yahi or vayehi or. Vayar Elohim, et haor kitov. Vayabda Elohim, bin haor bin hachoshek. Vayekra Elohim, leor yom, belachoshek kara laila. Vayehi erev, vayehi boker, yom echad. Vayomer Elohim Yahi rakia betoch hamayim vayehi mavdel bin mayim lemayim vayas Elohim et harakia vayavdel bin hamayim ashir mitachat lerakia ubin hamayim ashir me'al larakia vayehichen. Vayekra Elohim larakia shamayim. Vayi erev, vayi boker, yom shani. So just keep going through that, working your way through. And what we're going to do is we're going to start breaking it out for you, making sure that you've got your translation right. And we're going to take it phrase by phrase, which we find in the exercise on down the page. Now, what I wanted to make sure was that everybody understood, once again, not only how to recognize the 3-letter roots, and especially when you have various different consonants in weak verbs that fall out. You've got to learn the rules on that. And so we're going to just, I made mention of it last time. Pual means verb, and we utilize pual to identify weak verbs based upon the Pei Aleph Lamed. And so we're going to go talk about that a little bit. And let me see, I wanted to find out what all we wanted to kind of look in here to tonight. Let's see, there is a weak verb. And so I might come back to that. But I want to go over to Biblical Hebrew Step by Step, Volume 1, and we're going to go to chapter 14, page 79, gives us an intro to weak verbs. And so I want to go over there and just spend a moment with you on that, just helping you understand verbal patterns and especially weak verbs. And so let's look down here. About midway down the paragraph, you'll see that says the medieval Hebrews, okay? That isn't talking about their character, okay? That was a period of time in history, okay, right around the 11th and 12th century. The medieval Hebrew term for verb is pu'al, biblical meaning action or deed, okay? So that's how you describe a verb, pu'al. Since the root of Hebrew verbs consists of 3 letters, very important, Jewish grammarians in the Middle ages called the first root letter of any verb, pay, hapual, okay? Just as a placement for that consonant that would be found in a weak verb. And as you think about it, it's going to make sense. The pay is the first letter of the word, pual. Similarly, the second root letter is an ayin, and I said an aleph, forgive me. Hapual, so it would be ayin hapual. And the third letter is lamed, so it's a lamed hapual. So then what we end up having is we're going to have what's classically called pay verbs, pay weak verbs. We're going to have ayin verbs, and we're going to have lamed verbs. And you can have whole charts on these types of verbs. Okay, so let's see. We can make a little bit. We can go into this a little bit deeper here. Observe the following verbs: amar, to say; yashab, to sit; excuse me, bo, to come; ra'ah, to see. In an aleph, the first letter of the root is called a pei hapual. Okay? So, in amar, the aleph would be a pei hapual aleph. Okay? And so then in B, the yod is also a pei hapual. So this yod in yashav is referred to as a pei hapual yod. Now you say, what on earth are we talking about now? This is important nomenclature so that you can understand pay verbs, ayin verbs, lamed verbs, weak verbs, and help you to learn how to identify a three-consonant root that has been conjugated into one of the 7 stems, which I'm going to also remind you of tonight, okay? And you'll be able to recognize what fell out. Did a hay fall out? Did a noon fall out? Did a yod fall out? What fell out? And so hopefully as I go along, this is going to make more sense. And so then it says in C, the vav there would be then ayin. I don't see where it is. I've lost track. Yeah, an ayin hapual vav. Okay, because it's second. It basically occurs right where the ayin occurs in the word pual. Okay, and that's why it's then identified as that. And if you're upset, don't blame me. Blame those medieval Jews, okay? So here we go. This is a great nomenclature. It works if you think about it. So then in D, the hay, which is one of those missing consonants that you find constantly, what it would be called then? It's simply going to be called a lamed hapual hay. Okay? So hopefully, if that makes sense the first time, read it 3 or 4 or 5 times, think about it a little bit more, and you'll begin to get it. The rest of this paragraph really just goes on primarily here talking about strong verbs. And so I'm going to drop down here because I don't think it says anything else. Oh, yeah, it does. So it does say something. Such verbs which do not preserve the root letters throughout are known as weak verbs. Boy, my battery's going out on me. So that's an important part, just to identify that if a consonant is one of the consonants are going to fall out of the 3-letter root, 3-consonant root, then it's a weak verb. And so that's really why we have to have this nomenclature that's going through. So generally, a verb containing an aleph, hey, vav, and yod, or an initial noon, is a weak verb. So when and it's kind of like this, okay? If you're looking at the root and you're going, I can see my prefix, I can see my suffix, and I can't, and I know that, I can pretty much identify which of the 7 stem verbs this is, and you're trying to guess what consonant dropped out, it's usually one of those 4. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's aleph, hey, vav, or yod. And if if it's not one of them, then it's going to be something right at the very front of the word, and that's noon verbs, weak verbs, noon verbs. My pointer is gone. So the next paragraph says, these verbs like yalad, yashav, yada, have the letter yod as the first letter. So they are what? Those are yod pay verbs. I'm good. These are yod pay verbs. Okay? And so hopefully that makes sense. The yod is right there at the first, consonant of the word. And so it matches with pay, so they're called yod pay hapuals. Other respective roots. Such verbs are, and it says again, pay yod verbs, as I said. This means that the first letter of the root or the pay of the pual is a yod. So I think I've said that about 3 different ways now, right? I've said it 2 ways, my way, and 1 way, their way. Once again, this is why I chose to make sure that we were using a common format so that you weren't constantly getting confused about the things that I say, because there are times, and not a few, where I'm thinking one thing and I say another. And so that's just one of my problems. So fortunately now, if I say it wrong, you can go and read it. Once again, if you've got questions, email me. Nobody's emailed me. What I really ought to say in this lecture is this, because I want to discover how many people are actually watching this lecture. I want everybody who's watching this lecture, I want you to email me. Let me see if I've got my email available real quickly. That was from the last lecture I did, so I'm sure I've got that thing. I'm pretty sure I kept it somewhere nearby. See if I can find it. Oh, no. Doesn't look like I have it up here, so I'm going to have to put it up again. I can put it up right here underneath these. My email is awakesd@me.com. All right, you got it? Right there, awakesd@me.com. I'm going to blow this thing up for you so nobody can tell me that they didn't see that thing. Here we go. awakesd@me.com. If you're watching this, I want you to email me, okay? I want to know how many people are watching. So I want to see how many of you are afraid to ask any questions versus how many of you are actually watching me, okay? So back to this real quickly. This means that the first letter, okay, so I said that. Similarly, the verbs is that I can't. It's bana, kana, ra'a are known as lamed hay verbs because the hay is right there at the end of the word. So those are lamed hay verbs. Okay? Hopefully you're getting this now. That's a lot. Because of the third letter of their roots is hay. The verb kom, kom, shuv, are called ayin vav verbs. The verbs nafel, natan are called pei nun verbs, and so forth. Remember, only aleph, hey, vav, and yod, and initial nun are considered for this purpose, okay? So I want to go, there's one other place that I want to point out to you that you can get a little bit more information on these weak verbs and identifying consonants that fall out, because that's what we have. We have several occurrences of this in the passage of Genesis 1 through 8, and you're saying, wait a minute, I thought all these, verbs and roots had to be 3 consonants, and lo and behold, we got 2, and what happened? This one word has just changed on me. So, this is going to then help you be able to work through that. So chapter 20, page 114, I'm going to go over there real quickly. And once again, we can get some information on the pual verbs. Let's see where we can find those. It's been a while since I've been over here. Let's see if I can find them. Okay, yeah, there. And then, right here in past tense, and it's now talking about when the lamed he pual is a guttural. So this is another extension to the rule. Remember what the gutturals are, okay? Ayin and chet being two of the gutturals, right? When the lamed he pual is a guttural, okay? If we're talking about the lamed he pual, what are we talking about? We're talking about the last consonant in the word. It's a lamed he pual. You immediately know, oh, we're referring to the last letter in the word. And you could, say, well, there's so many different ways to say it. Well, this is the way they chose to say it. Only the second person feminine singular verb of the past tense is changed. And then we're going to get some examples. And this is really important for you to be making sure that you're getting all these paradigms down so that you know how to write out your imperfects and your perfects and know how to do your participles, which are being referred to here. And then what's the point that is being made is your paradigm's going to change a bit when you have gutturals. Any of your words have a last letter being a guttural. That's where you're going to have some issues with a second person feminine singular verb in the past tense. So the guttural takes pata instead of schwa. Once again, teaching you how to properly spell the word. Because remember, we're not just wanting to learn how to read, we also want to learn how to write. And so that's the value here. Just go through this, spend a little bit of time with it. It'll make sense. I'm not going to take you through the paradigm of the past tense here tonight. Maybe we could do that later if some of you are having problems with that. It's really just an exercise in memorization anyways, right? So let's go back over here now. There's one other thing too that before I get into this too deep, I want to also make sure that every one of you are going and familiarizing yourself with the 7 verb patterns, because we're getting into the 7 verb patterns. It's not just a simple call verb pattern. And so let me go over there real quickly. Make sure that everybody's looking at this, thinking about this, and learning how to identify it. And, it's not just for the sake of spelling that you need to understand these 7 verb patterns. It's also just to be able to properly translate it. So you have the 7 verb patterns are the cow, the nifel. Go on down there, just introduce them to start with. The PL. Then it would be the pual, right there, the pual. The hifel. The hofal, and the hithpal. Now, let me give you one clue that kind of helps you to identify them. These 7 verb patterns, of course, they bring to us, they take the 3 consonant root and they bring to us various shades of meaning that in which that word takes on like a causative effect with the hithpal. And so then, when you're translating a word, you wouldn't just translate that verb in a simple cow form, passive form. You would actually translate it in its causative form. And right now, I don't have a good example coming to my mind, but there's going to be one here. Another thing that I want to point out to you to help identify the call, or rather these various different forms and the way they appear, especially as they're pointed with the vowels. Okay, nifal usually starting with a noon, but that noon will disappear. Remember, in weak verbs, you end up getting some different situations there where you can maybe recognize it with a missing dagish or whatever. But nonetheless, what I want to get at is that if you just try to memorize how to spell it, then you'll get the verb pattern that helps you to identify the verb stem. Okay, so. The cow most frequently used, it's the simplest form. Somebody, if you're basically, let me just tell you a mistake that you can make. And there was two things I remember last week I told you that I was going to show you a passage that would impact your doctrine if you didn't understand how to identify just gender, like third person masculine singular. And so maybe I can get to that tonight, I don't know. But let me first try to get through this just a brief introduction. Okay, so ka, like yashav right there, to sit. That's your basic meaning of the word. And let me just go down here because it might help us a little bit more. Let's go down to nifal. And my pointer's not working. You got another pointer? You don't just have batteries? Okay. Well, I'll just hold on a second. So I'm just right down here, right there. Oops, you can barely see it. Okay. I'll try to bring it up to the top of the page, right there. Ra'ah, which is part of our passage, Genesis 1 through 8. Ra'ah, he saw, okay? Now, if you go to the nifal stem, now it's he appeared, okay? Or he was seen. Because what's happening now is it's the passive of the call. And if you were looking this word up, okay, so let's just say that you're working through a Bible passage and you're concerned as to whether or not it's been translated properly, and now all you have the ability to recognize that three-letter root there, right? Because you know that it's a three-letter root, but you basically somehow you have a missing noon there. But the pattern of the vowels prove to you that this is a nifal if you have that much discernment. Okay, let's say you don't have that much discernment and you just think, well, I'm just going to get at the three-letter root. I see the three-letter root and it's ra'ah and it's he saw. Where are they coming up with this he appeared thing? Okay, once again, you're basically going into, you're expanding the vocabulary. You're expanding, the best way I can say it is that you're expanding the definition and the meaning of that three-letter root. And in reality, yes, it is a different word that has been derived from the three-letter root. So if nothing else, let that be a warning to you. Just because we're spending a lot of time wanting to teach you how to identify the three-letter root so you can get at the meaning of the word. But you've got to recognize that three-letter root is used by all 7 stems that really then is changing the meaning of that word. And by and large, in your lexicon, in your dictionaries, you're not going to go and look up the hithvel. It's not, the dictionary is going to have the hithvel, the nifel, the piel, the pual, the hithpel, all under the call stem. And so you can't stop with the call stem and say, oh, that's the definition of the word, because it's not. The stem pattern defines for us what is the definition of the word. And so that's why you need to go through these, look at it, you'll get used to it after a while, like Ra et Hamal. So you look at Ra et Hamalak. Okay? And he saw the angel. But now, if you look here, Nira'ah Hamela'ach. I can't see the vowels, but I know what the word is. Hamalach. Okay? Nara'ah Hamalach. Nara'ah hamalach. Okay, there we go. So he saw the angel versus the angel was seen. Okay, let's try it another one. See if I can see the consonants a little bit better. Shalach. Okay, there we go. Shalach, he sent. Now, nishlach, excuse me, el havaraham. Forgive me, el avraham. So he went from he sent to he was sent to Abraham. See if I can find one that's a little bit more difficult, maybe. Well, it's not really that much more difficult. Might even actually help to have something simple, but in bara there. He created versus nivra. Yeah, it's nivra. It was created. Okay, so it's just a passive form. Go down here, see if I could give it maybe the PL. It's also known as chavad, the heavy. It's usually expressed in intensive or intentional action. So you go from shavar, he broke, to the PL form. See, it's not, you don't have a noon pointing it now. You're going to have to identify it. Once again, if you learn how to spell PL, the PL, you could help. It would help you. Sorry, my pointer's not working. It would help you identify that this is a PL because you're going to identify it primarily by the vowels that point it. See the dagish now that's in the vet of shavar for he broke. If I had a pointer, I'd show you that. I don't have a pointer. Do you have any batteries for this? Okay. So, seeing as that's not working, you're just going to have to try to follow along with me. Oh, you know what I can do? Silly me. I can use my pointer. Hello. He's back. So, shavar, he broke, okay? Now, what you've got to do is you've got to be able to identify, look, you can see that these vowels that are pointing shavar are not your simple cal stem vowels. What are your simple cal stem vowels? Usually gametz pata or pata pata. Remember, or you have usually it's usually a gametz and a pata, right? But now all of a sudden, what do we have? We have a herek, and also we have a dagish inside of the vet, okay? And what do we have there? I can't remember. I think it should be in it's sere. I'm pretty sure. Isn't it PL sere? Yeah, I'm pretty sure PL is sere. Is that two dots there? Unfortunately, I can't see it. See if I can see it here. I'm getting to a place where I need my little magnifying glass, but it's what it should be. It should be a herek and a shere and pointed with a dagish. Now I know it's a PL. So now what's going to happen? He smashed it. It's intensified. He didn't just break it. So, if you ended up just translating the PL, he broke instead of he smashed, you wouldn't be far off, right? It's a little bit closer than, I think in some respects, than what you get out of a difference between a cal and a nifel, or a cal and a hithpal. So a very familiar word to you, should be somewhat familiar, is lamad. He learned. In the PL form, lemid, he taught. So, then here's the pual. It is, pual expresses the passive of a PL. And, I know it gets a little bit intense there. So now I'm working all the way from the cal to the PL. He broke, okay. Now he smashed. And then the passive, it was smashed. And so you're just going to have to deal with these and work through them. I don't think I'm the greatest teacher on really getting these 7 stems down. You just, memorizing them is one way to go. Just recognizing the word as unique. And, well, in fact, nouns, adjectives, everything's built off a 3-root consonant. And you're looking at those words as unique as well. So here, achal, he ate. And then here's the hifel, which is the causative. And I can't see the consonants again. I'm so sorry. I'll bring my magnifying glass with me next time. But I'm pretty sure by memory, this would be hi'chali, okay, which is he caused to eat or he fed, okay? So if you're going to cause someone to eat, that would imply that you're feeding them, right? Let's do ba, he came. Then it's the hevi, he brought, the causative. Then just quickly, the hofal is the passive of the hifil. Now, kal, the hifil, the hofal. Well, it is what it is. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of hofals. We don't have a lot of hifils. And in our particular, right now, and we'll come back to them, we'll work with them more later. But right now, in our passage that we're in right now, we do have some hifels, and we do have some PL. I don't think we have a pual, and we'll identify those. And we have a nifel, and most of what you're going to encounter is, and most common is call. It's okay. So let's go back over here. Sorry if I've confused you more. Just go work with it. As you can see, I need to go work with it. Okay, so where are we at here? How much time do I have? Okay. So let's look at one of these. Oh, here, when you look at haya, one of the things you should know about haya, and especially when you have the vav conversive right there, and that's the vav conversive. That's the yod identifies for us that it is what its tense is, and that it is past tense, that it is third person masculine singular. But what happened to the hay? Well, the hay was a what? A pual lamed hay, right? As a weak verb, the pual lamed hay dropped off. So everybody nods their head knowingly. And then the same thing happened with a saw he made. Let's look at that. Once again, when you add the vav conversive, and I think I've gone through the vav conversive with you. Once again, here we got a pual lamed hay. He made from a saw imperfect of a saw, as I said, past tense, imperfect, not really a past tense, so we call it imperfect. And it is a pual lamed hay, or just a lamed hay verb omits the hay when the vav consecutive is used. Okay, so not really a classic weak verb necessarily, but it shows the loss of the hay when the vav is used. Is there any other instances where that's true? I'm not sure, but what we're going to, I'm not sure about that. But what we are going to see here is that when you have a final hay, that every one of these act as a weak verb, and the hay, the lamed hay, drops off. So that helps you then identify that 3-letter root. So you go, well, is this a yod verb? No, it's not a yod verb. Because you see the yod, you think, well, is this a yod verb? And so all of a sudden immediately you go, well, I recognize the vav, the an. It's a vav conversive, because it's certainly not a vav verb. Okay, so if I'm going to look it up in the dictionary, certainly not a vav verb that's going to start off with a V. That's the an. I recognize that as my vav conversive. And then if I were to jump to the conclusion and say, oh, it's a yod verb, in other words, it starts with a yod, right? Once again, I would be completely off because I wasn't recognizing, the conjugation of the verb, right? And so then it brings me to resh, and I go, oh, this is a resh verb, right? Because there is nothing else for this to be. In other words, when you go through your paradigm, none of your paradigms are going to add a resh to your conjugation. Does that make sense? Okay, none of your paradigms are going to add an ion to your conjugation. None of your paradigms are going to add a pay to your conjugation. Okay, they are going to add yods to your conjugation, hays, tavs, but none. So then you're saying, well, where's my three-letter root? Well, you already know because this is a rule. When you add a vav conversive to all lamed hey verbs, and I'm pretty sure it's all lamed hey verbs, it certainly is for all of these, the hey drops off. And these are, some of the most used words: ra'ah, to see; asa, to make; ana, answer; Allah, go up; bana, build; pana, turn; zava, command; haya, to be; chaya, very similar, right? Haya, and that looks like the same, doesn't it? No, that's a chet. Chaya, chaya, to live. Okay, let's go down here real quickly now, and let's start breaking out this passage, translate it into English. Okay, here we are, the first verse, this part of the first verse. It's not actually the first verse, but it begins to take the words that are there and present them so that if you're translating this, you can translate verse 1. Just mix it up a little bit. Bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. The first thing we're going to ask ourselves is, do we have any, strange verb patterns up here? Do we have anything outside the kal verb stem? No, we don't. Okay? So we have bara, which is to create. Elohim, a noun, God. Et is the direct object pointing to Shemayim, which receives the hey pata. So God created, you wouldn't go created God. God created what? The heavens. The direct object, et, is never translated, right? So it's just pointing to the direct object. So Hashemayim. So God created the heavens, and what else did he create? Va'et. There it is. It's pointing again to the direct object, right? The subject. Va'et ha'aretz. So God created the heavens and the earth. So everybody should have already known how to translate that. So then you go back up then, knowing that, and then of course if you're having troubles with that, you shouldn't be having any troubles with that, because really that is simply nothing but memorization. There it is. Bara Elohim et hashmayim ve'et haaretz. Okay, that's just all that is memorizing your vocabulary list, and then the only real challenge there to your vocabulary list is that you had the definite article ha, hey, pata put in front of shamayim and also in front of aretz, right? So the only thing then that you would have to have in addition to that is bereshit. Reshit, beginning, be, in the. Now, if you don't know the rules surrounding that dogish inside of the bet and it having the meaning or the translation of in the, then what you need to do is you need to go back and look at the very first few chapters. What would they be? I think they would be chapters 7 through 10, right around in there. I'm pretty sure you'd pick it up there, because that's just elementary stuff. If you've missed that, go back and get it, okay? So now let's go and let's translate the second sentence. And it's kind of good to take these in smaller fragments. And that's why this exercise is so valid. Very, very, very important, rather. And then, of course, also make sure that you're translating into Hebrew, going back from the English back to the Hebrew. That exercise is just absolutely going to change your ability to be able to read. When you're going both ways, it really underscores translation in the way that we process and think. So the second line is Bereshit haya choshek al haaretz. And so this is switching it up a little bit, but you should know all of these. Are there any surprise verbs there? No, they're only simple verbs, kal verbs there. And then we have Bereshit in the beginning. We have choshech, which is darkness. And al would be the only other word here that's a little bit different for some of you maybe. Don't pay attention to the megaf there, which is that dash right there, the megaf. But al haaretz, which is upon the earth. It's just all part of your vocabulary. If you learned your vocabulary, you're going to get this. In the beginning was darkness. In the beginning there was darkness upon the earth. Okay? Or you could simply get it. In the beginning was darkness upon the earth. That's very literal. So what we want to do is, in our translation, we want to keep it as literal and as word for word as possible, but it's got to make sense. In the beginning was dark upon the earth. That ain't going to help us. In the beginning, there was darkness upon the earth. Or you could say, in the beginning, it was dark on the earth. I think that would be the most accurate. In the beginning, it was dark upon the earth. Okay? So you play around with it like that until you get a translation that is understandable, very clearly understandable in English, and is as close to what the Hebrew word for word meaning actually is. So, in the beginning, it was the to be haya. I'm translating the to be haya. It was. Is that legitimate? Absolutely. It's accurate. So, in the beginning, it was dark upon the earth. Word for word, total accuracy, no loss of meaning in any way. And that's what you really want to achieve. You want to achieve as much as possible, word for word. Not intent, because intent means that you are interpreting. We don't need interpretation. We want to do word for word, but it has to be something that makes sense in English. Okay? Then, of course, you go back up here to your passage, and you see that, that is borne out right here. And here, though we haven't broken this out yet, and the earth, the vav conversive, the definite article, eretz is your vocabulary word. So, you get the vav conversive and you get the definite article identified. That is so reoccurring. It's just so redundant. It's over and over again throughout the entire Bible. You should get past that. You recognize your three consonant noun there, eretz. You got it. Vocabulary. And the earth, hayata, once again, is the haya. Okay? Form of the verb, the earth, hayata. And the earth was tohu. And you see the feminine ending, hayata, and that's why we got some modification here of haya. We got the tav included, and which is, once again, the way. Go back, learn your paradigm of the of the past tense. Tohu, vocabulary word, empty. Bavahu, bahu, once again, void, vocabulary word. V'choshek, just to get v'choshek al pani. So instead of v'choshek al haaretz, it's v'choshek al pani. And darkness was upon the face of Tehom, the deep. Okay, so we'll get back. We'll spend as much time as you need on this. Slow me down, back me up, tell me I said something wrong, because I probably did. But the biggest thing is I want you to be able to read this fluently. I want you to be able to translate it. And I want you to realize why you're translating it the way you're translating it. I don't want you to say, well, I know that particular phrase like Bereshit is in the beginning. I want you to be able to break that out for me. I want you to be comfortable breaking that out with the root and the prefixes there and so on. Okay, love you. See you next time.